right, we're getting started. I hope everybody's warm and safe. Nobody's watching or listening to the show on their phone while driving in the snow, though that would be relatively impossible at this point. That would be crazy go nuts, I'm telling you. It would not be a good thing. It would be bad for you. I'm telling you this. By the way, do you like the new opening graphics? Thank you. All right, yes, let's do this 3-2-1-ing for a second. Oh, one more second. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hello, and how are you? Hold on one second. Is my overhead light on? Hold on. No, that's the wrong one. Let's see. Why will this? Oh, that's the fan. I'm fine. Hi. It's it's the reason why it's the greatest live stream in the history of live streams. Is because I do it in my office, and it's simplicity, I think, that really is appealing to a lot of people. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Are we storming the castle? Have fun storming the castle. You think it'll make it? It'll take a miracle. Bye-bye. It is a Monday, so, as such, you should expect a certain amount of chat room, actually. Our great and powerful chat room. Welcome to the show. I want to thank you guys for defending my honor in the chat rooms of other shows that are arguably, and I do mean arguably, of the same political bent, but seemingly tactically, I would say different, but that's letting them off easy. Encourage you? Oh, you want some encouragement right out of the gate, KJ Doglove? I would be glad to serve it up. May I? Can I? Okay. Remember when Trump with his dipshittery was talking about crashing the economy with 100% tariffs across we're going to do 200% tariffs. They're going to be tariffs across the board, and it literally drove the dollar up because everybody was expecting inflationary pressure on it because of that very thing. Remember that? remember that whole shit? Remember when he was all during the fucking campaign where everybody was panicking? Oh yeah. Okay. Now, reality sets in. And things can't go exactly like you want them. Reality sets in, and you'll crash the fucking economy. All right, so this is the story, and this is the story I said would be there. All of us who are like, yeah, dumb fuck, you'll wreck everything. This followed, by the way, if I may, and I'm sorry I didn't save it to my notes for today because I should have. An article, I think it was in Market Watch or one of these other, money magazine-y kind of things. It was saying Trump is inheriting an economy that's as good as it gets. I'm going to find it, and we're going to pin it because fuck this dude. All right, but anyways, needless to say, of course, this is what happened. Don't be a dumbass. Of course he wasn't, even his stupid threat, he was the people around him were like, he was just bullshitting. Okay, first of all, no, he wasn't. He's being talked off a cliff by people around him, and everybody around him's going, look, dude, if you do that, fucking people are gonna fucking hate you. And that's the only reason he wants to fix it. It's not because he genuinely gives a shit. It's not because he doesn't think his plan will work. He's worried about his impression with his voters or his own people. All right. So Trump team mulls narrowing universal tariffs post reports. Aides to President-elect Donald Trump are considering a tariff plan that would apply to all countries but be limited to specific critical imports. Yes. And let me guess. Nothing that Ivanka sells or buys or trades in is considered critical. A, I would argue that is true. B, she will escape any kind of, even the more targeted shit. So, there you go. So the Washington Post reported, citing 3 people familiar with the discussions it didn't identify, which was basically, what, Bessent and anybody around him? Are you fucking kidding me? It's the entire team. Nobody's... If implemented, the plan would mark a significant narrowing of the universal tariffs of 10 to 20% that Trump had proposed during his campaign. 10 to 20? We kept hearing 100, 200. Get the fuck out. 50%, 100%. If they do 100, we do 100. It's reciprocal, right? That was this nonsense. A move economists expect to drive up consumer prices and distort patterns of global trade. Like, everybody. Dude, you think he's going to be surrounded by... All right, say what you will about billionaires, and I mean the real ones like Bezos and the other ones, not the fake ones like Musk, who, without the government tit to suck on, would have no industry whatsoever. There is only one company that exists in all of Elon Musk's, portfolio that exists without government money, and it's Twitter, and it eats shit. It's full of Nazis. It can't keep advertisers. It won't turn a profit ever. So, again, if we're going to talk about billionaires, can we at least talk about the ones who, like, say what you will about Bezos, but the dude started with an online bookstore and turned it into something gigantic. Say what you will about Mark Cuban and the like, and Bill Gates, but they actually kind of worked on something and produced something, and they really were hands-on in it, as opposed to fucking, blood emerald asshole from apartheid South Africa who had a grind to bring down the U.S. government along with his parents and decided to carry it out on the backs of the U.S. taxpayer. And again, if it wasn't for the Obama administration adding electric car funding to the bailout, we wouldn't even be talking about Elon Musk. He wouldn't come up because he would have never had the seed money to make Tesla what it is, and he certainly wouldn't have been able to, do SpaceX or any of the other things that he did on the backs of Tesla and the investment money and the investment capital that he had, which was far more than they needed for the bullshit he was selling. So, this is a read more. Trump's tariff threats set off a global supply chain freakout. This is the old one. Okay, this is all right. Trump's transition team didn't immediately respond to a request for comment because it's true. U.S. dollar fell against most major currencies Monday after the report, with the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index declining 0.9% in its biggest drop since November, while the euro rallied more than 1% against the greenback. That's why. Like, they know it's bullshit now, and he was always talking about bluffing, but it would have fucking destroyed the economy. And so everybody around him is like, dude, it's not, dial it back. That was campaign. That was all bullshit, Joel. Right? So, I'm here to tell you, and believe me, by the way, I'm not going to gloss over all the shit this asshole is going to try to do, and some of it will be very damaging, and it will be up to the states to protect citizens and asylum seekers, let's say, or DACA recipients, sure, and people who are vulnerable, to stand against, his tyrannical freakout. But a good portion of what he was selling, because he was selling everything to both sides, is nonsense. And he knows it. And if he doesn't know it, the people around him know it. And they're going to go, yeah, sure thing, boss, mount, and just pitch whatever the fuck he says right into a shredder until he forgets about it. I'm telling you. So, all right. And then the other thing, chat room, if I may. And by the way, Tara Dublin will be joining us in hour 2. I'm pretty sure Cliff's issue might be that he's in a fucking snowdrift right now. If he doesn't have if he's not, I don't know, somewhere else, streaming or promoting. He's good at that stuff. He's the man's a machine. I give him total credit for that. But snow is really coming down in the Ohio and Kentucky and Kansas region. So it's like it's all trying to hit my entire family everywhere in all the K states. Let's see if I can do this. Hold on. Snow Eastern. Yeah. It's pretty gnarly. Here's the... I gotta say, well, Here, we'll take a look at it. There we go. That's what it looks like, kids. Major storm brings heavy snow and freezing temperatures to swath of the U.S. You gotta love the BBC, man. You gotta love them. Swath. Which swaths? Large swaths. Swarthy, isn't it? Yeah. Huge winter storm brings heavy snowfall, freezing temperatures to the east coast of the U.S. As a state of emergency has been declared in 7 states. In D.C., which, by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks that, the Jews are using their space lasers to screw up the weather, so it'll be impossible for, I don't know, them to rally and free the Jan 6ers, or I don't know what the hell. It can't just be snow. I love how, human pollution can't control the weather, but, 2 machines the government owns can. It's impossible to believe that all the industrial output of human beings for centuries would maybe accumulate to, large amounts of methane and carbon and affect the overall atmosphere and bounce sunlight off of it and all that shit. Or not, I guess, let it perforate. That's impossible to believe. But, 2 little machines in the air, winter there, summer there, hot, drought, snowstorm. We have, Charlie, come over here. If I throw this switch, it actually makes, if you look, watch right here. I can narrow focus the Jewish space snow laser that I can make snowmen. Isn't that nice? It's like a yogurt dispenser. I can just make them whatever. And then we just... we'll leave lumps of coal around and they'll think I don't know, Santa doesn't like them. I don't know how it works. It's a pagan ritual. What do you want from me? Yes, it's just like decorating a cake. So, yeah, it's called winter. We've had them for a long time. They're talking about the biggest snowfall in 5 years, or maybe a decade, or maybe 3 years, or maybe 5. Yeah. Also, if I may, both sides of and again, I understand this is 97.2 and a completely disjointed view of the argument about climate change. Both sides jump on big snow and tornadoes and hurricanes right in the middle of them and go, this makes my point, or this refutes your point. Both jump in. Neither do. Neither do. Snowfall in a particular area over time does not prove climate change, certainly not to Republicans. And the fact that it's snowing in these areas does not disprove global warming as an overall arc. That's not how it works. Yes, it's January. This is what happens in fucking January. And we're dying, it seems, like a death of anecdotal stories. I've been saying for a while, chat room, and maybe this is a good kind of starting point, but can we just address one thing that I think is the primary malady of social media as we know it? May I? And I think I can boil it down to special people, celebrities, I don't know, high-profile individuals of any sort, politicians, yada, yada, trying to be normal, insisting that they are normal and live normal lives, and normal people insisting that they deserve to be celebrities. But sight unseen. Does that make sense? That seems to be the mix of people you run into online, which is just it's full of celebrities and politicians and other people going, I'm just like you. I'm just a regular guy. I'm a regular lady. I'm just doing my thing. I'm just simple, and I like simple things, and I just small things that I do, and I'm just, that other thing is very big. But with me, I'm this. I'm just this. And then there's tons of people online who are, in their, let's say, global impact, quite small. Don't even try. This seemed to be the slacktivist crowd who are like, I am enormous. Yes, I am greater than all of you. Like, listen unto me. And it's funny that I feel like that's the crisscross we're living through more than anything you could. Oh my gosh, the hype train. Thank you, Cosmic Rose, for pointing that out with your lovely, like, look at that post. There's so much stuff in that. Hold on. I have to, there you go. Look at that. Look at the work she put into that. Look at the icons and the lines and stuff. I mean, honestly, lovely. And thank you guys for the hype train. So, does that make sense? Does that resonate with anybody? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? That there are a lot of like people who don't want to have, or don't on the daily anyways, have a measurable global impact, who act as though they do online. And then those who clearly do, and then act like they're just kind of, I don't know. You know what I really like is cooking chicken at the house. Here's me just standing here. I like a good burger once in a while. I love to go to Burger King. Here's me in the drive-thru of something like just like the deminimizing of what they do to try to like appear humble or real or authentic or whatever. And it's complete bullshit. It just is. Because I look, as somebody with what I would consider a healthy level of celebrity, seriously, I'm in the friggin' sweet spot. I can go about my business and go about my life with some regularity, but if at any time I want to get recognized, all I have to do is speak relatively loudly, and my voice makes people go, wait a second. And yeah, you notice the shirt? You like it? Yeah. I'm getting to that point in a second. So, and these are available, by the way. I figure these are like my Jimmy Carter Allman Brothers Band, Hal Sparks Megaworldwide shirts. But if I want some, I can get some. If I want popularity or fame or recognition, I can get it. And I could shut it off like a valve almost, just because I have long hair and I can duck around and people are like, is that? Nah. So the reason I'm thinking about this, because I did, Nerd Halen did a show on Friday night. We did like a private show for a birthday. We were hired to do this. And like in comparison to the show we'd done, for like, we got Dallas, it was like New Year's and it's a big to do. And then this thing was like in a bar, right? It was just a bar. I am loud often. You're right, Kaling. Actually, it's just because my voice projects. I don't know how. I don't have much of a modulating tone. I have such resonance, and my voice is just naturally loud that I don't even have to try because I have good breath control. Thank you very much. Anyways, we're in this little bar, funky place, and I have to say, the sound on stage from a monitor standpoint for the musicians and the singers. We had, oh my gosh, did Leon do something lovely? Is that why everyone's yelling at them? Thank you, Seahawk, by the way. It sounded so rough on stage, but we could hear enough to know we were okay, right? We could, you can use, sometimes the monitors are so bad you're using like muscle memory, you know what I mean? Just to get you're like, okay, I can feel that I'm hitting the note in my because I'm in that pocket, and you're literally like, it's like a line and it's this long and you go to this point, and it's just going to happen whether you can hear it back or not. It's that kind of situation. Anyways, so it's like standing in front of a jet engine. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really tell. So oftentimes when that happens and it's very murky, because I'm very forward, will step out into the crowd or past the monitors and basically using my, my little sound periphery, I will listen to the side speakers to hear what's going on. Because what the audience is always hearing is good. What the band is hearing is sometimes bad. So I will step out in front of that. And the trick is not feeding back and all that. So there's an art to it. But I stepped out into things, sounded great, everything was good. And while, yeah, I should have a salty t-shirt. That's a great idea. That is a great idea. Okay. We got to figure out what the say blank again, what the blank should be. We'll get there. We'll take a poll. I mean, it's not like I can't make multiple ones. Anyways, say tariffs again, right? So, anyways, so when I did that, I don't know if it was the lighting or the closeness or the fact that my glasses didn't reflect as much or something, but there were like 18 people that went from, these guys are great, this is so much fun, to, holy shit, that's Mr. Davenport. and I gotta say, it's really fun when that happens. Because like I said, the long hair buys me a lot of cover. It really does. It shapes my face differently. It makes it wider. That's what the long hair does. It just frames you differently. So even when people see you, they're a little like, wait a second. And when they finally realize, it's nice. It's nice. And it's good for me because I'm lucky in that, and it's partly luck, but it's also skill, if I do say so my damn self, when I pick projects, I've been pretty good about it. I've only had a couple of duds, and they weren't artistic stuff. They were like promo things I did that, looking back, I was like, nope, that cost me more than it gave me. Like for G4, I dressed up as Link from Zelda for this bit, and I was like trying to be a team player and make it fun, and everybody there was just like, whatever, dude. I'm like, it was your idea. You wanted me to do this. Is that kind of, but I wasn't able to rewrite the script. Like, it was just that kind of, anyways. Yeah, you want to see the fastest speaking I've ever done? Go watch my, top 100 video games thing I did for them. Holy shit. I was crowbarring every word I could into that thing. But all my acting roles and all my, TV hosting kind of things all pretty much worked out awesome in that everybody that's a fan is a real fan. You know what I mean? I literally, depending on age range, I have to go Queer as Folk or Lab Rats, or there's the Spider-Man 2 contingent, or the I Love This, right? There's a whole generation of the I Love This, right? It's great. It's so great. And this is why I think that people who don't like being famous are dicks, but or just I guess aware they're not nice. That would be the other thing. Like, I'm a piece of shit. People are going to find out eventually, right? Well, thank you, Corrine. I think my stand-up stands alone as well. And that, by the way, next Flapper show, January 23rd. And I'm toying with an idea, Patreons, and I'll get on there this week, and I want to talk to you guys about, because I have been freeballing, as it were, for the last couple of years when I do the show. I don't prep at all. But I thought maybe I'll start letting the Patreon folks, we'll do like a little poll and pick a theme for each one. And I want to be universal in my themes. I don't want to pick just like the one political thing, because that's what Sexy Liberal is for, and that's going to be on the 18th, 19th, whatever, in 18th in DC. So that's specific, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, yeah, dude, where's my car? Queer as Folk, all those so if anybody comes up to me like they know me, it's great. It's awesome. And so I have I think overall, I have a positive attitude about fame and recognition. I don't think I got it just because I'm, look like Ryan Reynolds or something like that. I feel like because of my looks, which I am not ashamed of, don't get me wrong, I'm okay with them, but I recognize it. I couldn't just skate on them. You know what I mean? You can't skate on your. I couldn't skate on my looks. Okay. Oh, thank you, Corinne. It was going to take some work. I've told you guys the story that my face started to change and I started feeling better about my looks when I literally came to terms with the fact that I was ugly when I was 14. I literally, when I moved to Chicago, I was like, okay, new city. I'm looking at myself in the mirror going, and you're ugly. What are you going to do? You got to do something. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to get a girlfriend looking like this, buddy. Everybody's taller than you. Everybody's got, better bone structure, all that shit. And I literally, I feel like I started looking better after I came to terms with that, where I was just like, whatever. So anyways, the point being is that in my sort of awareness that it took some skill to get there and that kind of stuff, that I have this weird thing about people who either clearly got there because they are the child of someone famous and then they have a career and da-da-da-da. Okay. And, if their parents hadn't been celebrities or if they hadn't gone to Hollywood high school with their entire rest of the cast of Friends, would they have made it? It's hard to say. Right? Hard to say. So, anyways, by the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mornings Megaworldwide. It's where we get a little more philosophical because we have room to do that about the things that are going on. Now, why am I getting to this? Okay, so this kind of ties into the Cybertruck dude. Because there is, how they used to say that, like, politics is Hollywood for, Hollywood for ugly people. The idea that people who couldn't make it in Hollywood but feel like they deserve fame go into politics, so people have to deal with them. I think there's like, and that would be the acting crowd, right? So if the actors that can't make it, they go to the DC to be in politics, that would be the theater, because your ego needs to be fed by people needing you or wanting you or whatever. Or radio, it's a good one. I was told I had a face for radio right out of the gate, and it turns out to be true. Thanks. Because I live stream my radio show and people like it. Anyways, so if politics is Hollywood for ugly people in that regard, then I would argue that people like the Cybertruck bomber dude, Matthew Lilpecker, the guy who blew his truck up in front of the place, that's the reality TV crowd. That's reality TV for people who can't get a follow me around and film me eating lunch crowd. Does that make sense? Like there's a subsidiary of people who are like, and this would, I to some degree it would be some of the people who, like the crisscross protesters that showed up on college campuses about Gaza and all that stuff last year that weren't, again, separating them from people who actually do give a shit. Make sure you understand me. The people that I'm talking about are the people who are clearly doing it for show, don't buy into it, or are selling some level of anti-Semitism, or just quite frankly feel like people need to listen to them over other people. Because again, we all have subset of subset of subset of subset that we're dealing with. It seems to me every insight you have about serial killers comes from the ones you've been able to catch. Right? Does that make sense? So in this particular dude's case, we're now getting details about his letter that he wrote and some other messages that he posted. And this is kind of where the crisscross of this is where, like, you can tell both him and the other guy who filmed he did all of his recon with meta glasses, like the ones I have for Nerd Halen, that film, and by the way, there's tons of those out there. He just bought those because they're probably the easiest ones to get. But and he thought he was going to live stream from them. That's more than likely what he was, planning on doing. But Facebook shuts that shit down. But anyways, before the incident, Lil Pecker sent concerning messages to his ex-girlfriend about the Cybertruck. He bragged to one ex, and again, his wife was mad because he was being unfaithful, and I guess they're all exes now, but his Cybertruck was ungodly fast and made him feel like Batman. Following this, he fatally shot himself inside the truck, which then burst into flames outside the hotel. The FBI and detectives are investigating potential motives for this act, which took place while he was on leave from active military duty in Germany. Now, one of the things that he wrote was, this was not an act of terror. And to me, this sounded like the biggest bullshit excuse you could possibly make. And even the police started talking about this is an act of him doing himself in, right? This is not an I don't know, whatever. It was not an act of of terroristic violence. He did himself in, just like it was an act of self-immolation. Like he set himself on fire. Okay, anybody remember the guy who set himself on fire over Gaza last year? Or the one who did set himself on fire outside of Trump's trial? That other person? We've had like 3 of these. By the way, to anybody planning or thinking about that, doesn't work. Won't work, never will, won't work. Won't ever. It's not going to work. Please don't set yourself on fire thinking you're going to change the world. Stay alive and go be a volunteer for Doctors Without Borders carrying boxes of gauze, for fuck's sake. If you can marshal the energy to set yourself on fucking fire and the commitment to that, you can pack a fucking bag and go work in a refugee camp for a year. For real. Anyways, so in this, so weird. He goes, in this message, fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up, which is, again, this odd thing about attacking the concept of woke, and yet they use the phrase wake up all the time. And like it's such a crisscross, like they just don't fucking get it. It's so odd. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. Now, he was pro-Trump, but he sounds like he would be attacking Trump in that regard. And yes, thank you for reminding me, Andrea. This show becomes a podcast at Hal Sparks Podcast, Megaworldwide. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts or wherever other people give you your podcasts, I suppose. Let's see. Continue reading out what this is. Matt Tardio. Wait before assuming guilt. Matthew Livisberg is a suspect in the Vegas twice. Last month, someone pretending to be a Green Beret from my former operation started to contact me with extensive knowledge of this. Okay, these are his texts that came back in. The body was so badly burned it can only be identified by DNA, but an ironic twist, U.S. military ID and a passport were found in fabulous condition. That's not ironic at all. His fuel that burned him up. It's not the fact that this stuff was in the glove box or in his bag and it didn't burn all the way through the bag and his stuff was deep inside the bag and they were able to find it is not weird at all. But again, all these people are like, clearly this is so hinky. It's not hinky at all. He called for action. He said, military and vets, move on D.C. starting now. Militias facilitate and augment this activity. Occupy every major road along federal buildings and campus off federal buildings by the hundreds of thousands. Lock the highways around down with semis right after everybody gets in. Hold until the purge is complete. Try peaceful means first, but be prepared to fight to get the Dems out of the federal government and military by any means necessary. This is after the fucking election. They all must go, and a hard reset must occur for our country to avoid collapse. And by the way, all of them are like, despite his body being so burned. Okay, the outside of his body was burned. It didn't burn his organs. They just couldn't make out his face. Yeah, hard reset. Meaning no Democrats in government and they must be forcibly purged. This dude, think about the strategy here. This guy, this was the plan. Motivate all like militias and his fellow military veterans to surround Washington, D.C. and drive out all the elected Democrats, by the way. Not just the ones that may have been voted out, but any that have been voted in again or anew. We gained 3 seats, for example, in the House in California. This guy believed he was motivating people to surround the Capitol and eliminate elected Democrats because democracy. This is so fucking stupid. Okay, the second document listed levels, his fears over the state of the nation. We are the United States of America, the best country people to ever exist. The best country people. Best country people. Country of people, the best country of the best people. We're the United States of America, the country with the best people. Never mind. But right now we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. Now this dude is basically quoting Trump. We are crumbling because of lack of respect, morales, and respect for others. Morales. And respect for others. Greed and gluttony has consumed us. The top 1% decided long ago they weren't going to bring everyone else with them. You are cattle to them. Now, this dude vacillates between sounding like a Trumpy and a Bernie bro. It's so funny. And I mean, you'd have to be kind of disjointed to pull off something this fucking stupid. But clearly there were a lot of crossed wires, as it were, in his reasoning, if not his physical brain. But he was able to work through the process of renting a car and driving it hundreds of miles and bragging about how fast it was, and then doing a dry run as he drove through the valet, probably waved at somebody and then went through again and then blew it up. Now, at one point, I think, and maybe in here, we have strayed from family values and corrupted our minds, and I am a prime example of having it all, but it never being enough, which I suppose is him expressing his guilt about cheating on his wife. A lot of us are just sitting around waiting to die. Speak for your fucking self, buddy. No sunlight, no steps, no fresh air, no hope. Our children are addicted to screens by the age of 2. We are filling our body with processed foods. Jesus Christ. And we're back to RFK Jr. Our population is too fat to join the military, yet we are facing a war with China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran before 2030, he wrote. What do you think? It's going to be a fist fight? The income inequality in this country and cost of living is outrageous. The number of homeless on our streets is embarrassing and disgusting. Have some pride and take care of this. Yeah, that's what Democrats have been trying to do for a long time, stupid. And every time we start making progress, budget cuts dial stuff back. And what do you think we're doing, stupid? What do you think the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is about, post-2008? What do you think forgiving student loans is about, dummy? What do you think infrastructure actually getting done is about? You want to equalize this country? Make sure everybody's roads and bridges are safe. Not just wealthy counties and wealthy areas that can get rich people from their houses to their local airport. Just some folks just got to die for dipshittery. I don't know why. This is garbage. This asshole is a Trumper. And he's going to whinge about income inequality when Trump is having like billionaire roundtables after he gets elected at Mar-a-Lago, where he's taking a bunch of money for his inauguration and he's not going to spend a fucking dime of it. It's all going into his pocket, stupid. Stop obsessing over diversity. We are all diverse and DEI is a cancer. Just in case you thought he was a electric car driving liberal. Thankfully, we rejected the DEI candidate and we'll have a real president instead of weekend at Bernie's. This is shit Sean Hannity says. He wrote, later adding, rally around the Trump, Musk, Kennedy and ride this wave to the highest hegemony for all Americans. We are second to no one. Hegemony for all Americans. He called it a wake-up call. He said we must move on from culture of weakness and self-enrichment. perpetuated by our senior political and military leaders. Again, Trump is all about self-enrichment. So fucking weird. We are done with blatant corruption. Oh, are we? Our soldiers are done fighting wars without end states or clear objectives. This sounds like Ukraine shit, and we're not fighting in that war. And Biden got us out of Afghanistan, period. Or clear objectives. And again, peacekeeping is a clear objective. It's constant gardening, but it doesn't have necessarily an end until the parties that you're working with or against come to some kind of agreement. Yes? But the ends in that situation and the objective in that situation is to say, I don't know, protect as many civilians in a circumstance as possible. Because if you can't stop the civil war in Sudan, maybe you can protect refugees along a road for as long as possible. And you can make sure that supplies of goods and, foodstuffs and water get where they need to go. Oof. Okay. Why did I personally need to do this? Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. Consider this last sunset of 2024 and my actions the end of our sickness and a new chapter of health for our people. Again, and this is it. This is the one. This is the part that I wanted to point out. This was not a terror attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Hey, asshole, you injured 7 people. If somebody had walked out to check on you right before it, they'd have died. Of course it was a terrorist attack. You're literally trying to use this act to motivate militias to surround D.C. and purge it of Democrats. Of course it's a terrorist act. Fuck me. And again, consider this the self-aggrandizing. Consider this consider this last sunset of 24 and my actions the end of our sickness and a new chapter of health for our people. Slayer chick, I'm about to go on a rant here. My brothers are vets. This man was diagnosed with severe mental illness and was encouraged to stay in the military. In fact, the military makes it virtually impossible to be discharged early with a mental illness diagnosis. We'll do everything possible to keep you on, even if you're in danger to yourself and others. The other thing, too, is that there's a culture of, I think it's clear is that you can't go to war without some level of damage. Everybody's carrying around that part of it. And suck it up is how 80% of them stay above water psychologically. Suck it up is an actual functioning methodology for the vast majority of people. It isn't, and is terrible advice for those that have especially head trauma, right? Somebody who's been through a very depressing or shocking situation, but has not had a physical impact from it, through therapy and perhaps some level of pharmaceutical intervention, I would guess, can get back to normal and wean themselves off that. But if you've had a massive concussion and you have effectively CTE, you can't suck it up. You can't. And as a matter of fact, the question about can you be healed at all? Or if we're just watching someone degrade like it's a terminal mental illness that eventually will break down, and it instead of coming out like dementia or Alzheimer's, where your brain is breaking down, you can't remember or put things together, it causes to rage and lack of impulse control. And it's like that dude Cage, the guy who got the spike through his head. He was a really nice guy and everybody liked him, and then there was an accident and this railroad spike went to his head and it changed his whole personality, and he became a gambler and a womanizer and mean and all this stuff. Now, it's a well-known story. There's 2 possibilities there. One is, Phineas Gage, right? We know that people with head trauma can be it can affect their behavior and their self-identity, all kinds of things. But we also know that people who have a brush with death sometimes will go, what the fuck have I been doing this whole time? Right? Why am I not living the life I want to live? I almost died, right? And so they will start acting in a way that's devoid of the rules that they feel like had tied them up. You only live once. They get into like a YOLO state, right? And by the way, both of those things can be true at the same time. You can have enough of your cognitive ability to be aware of the strike against your mortality and your awareness of it, or strike for, I guess, your mortality. You can be that you're like, Jesus, what have I been doing? I'm following society's rules and I'm miserable and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to act on, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do. Shit, you got to die of something. Smoke them if you got them, right? And then the other, it may be exacerbated by physical injury. Right? Now, you and I, to use the regular colloquialism, think anybody who vote for Trump is nuts. It's nuts. You gotta be fucking goofy. I don't know what's going on with your brain. Or you have to be so egomaniacal that you look at an egomaniac like that and go, oh yeah, his solution should work. YOLO can help you do good things too. I agree, Cosmic Rose. That's not the point I'm making. I agree. Totally. Although I think you do the same thing even if you thought you lived multiple times, because I do, and I clearly want to contribute. Yes? That's another conversation for another time. I guess I'd have to have it before terror shows up, because obviously even the thought of some sort of spiritual existence around and of this world gets her all mad at me. So not that it matters, but that I just want to say for the record, oh yes, 9 minutes to 9 minutes to certification. Yeah, that's why they think the snow is like an anti-maggot device or something. Whatever. And Trump, by the way, let me get back to the chat room. Sorry. The FBI Special Agent Spencer Evans in this case said, although this incident is more public and more sensational than usual, it ultimately appears to be a tragic case of suicide involving a heavily decorated combat veteran who was struggling with PTSD and other issues. Yes, and I would also say that part of his other issues was ego. Because again, you'll find people all the time who are genuinely humble, genuinely self-effacing, genuinely caring about their fellow human beings. And when they experience that kind of mental illness or head trauma or combination of the two, they don't end up writing a screed that makes them kind of like the Hertz version of the Unabomber, with a total disregard for anybody that might have been walking up behind the vehicle when all this shit went down. They go through it, and I think we need to celebrate those people. The people, I'm speaking to anybody who's gone through some trauma in their life, and some person like this goes and does something fucking awful. And when you hear what they went through, it's not that dissimilar from what you've gone through. I want to tell you that I appreciate the hard work that you're doing to be a good and decent being and deal with your trauma in a way that won't threaten the lives or the livelihoods or the fingers of your or eyes or ears of your fellow humans. Because it seems to me, and I'm this is more like an ongoing project, but it seems to me that from what I can see, from all of these like people who do this kind of stuff, or workplace shooters or school shooters, and the people who carry out this kind of violence, it's because they think they're worth more than you are, than anybody is, and that's ego. That's egotism. That's not a distressed self-worth. That is an inflated self-worth. My grievance my, the issues I have with the world are, and how I feel about them are more important than your life or the life of random strangers working at the fucking, the valet of a fucking hotel. Right? And tons of these assholes will blather on and on about the service they're doing to mankind, and it's all. And a lot of this was seeded when I watched that Unabomber special recently. Clearly an egomaniac, just an asshole is what his thing was. He's just self-important. So much so that you could mail a fucking box. You could leave a fucking box for anybody to find with a trigger bomb in it. Think about what you have to think about yourself and your ideas and how they must be implemented to do something like that. Yeah, it's all ego-driven. All of these motherfuckers, to the one, are egomaniacs, narcissists. Because you can't get from whatever that message is or belief system is that a lot of people share. That's why when people read manifestos, a lot of times they're like, well, that I agree with that. I agree with this part. I don't agree with this part, but parts of it pop up. Even this dude's like, his is all over the fucking map. Right? You could pick things. If you're a Bernie bro, you could pick out something in what he said and you'd agree on it. And if you're a total Trumper, you'd fucking dive in on that, right? He'll give you these little seeds. But the point is, it isn't those ideas, because he doesn't really commit to any of them, or he did just fucking rolled his sleeves up and done them. Jimmy Carter fucking hammering nails for Habitat for Humanity into his 90s. Basically right up till they put him in fucking hospice care. That takes too much time. And people don't pay attention anyways. And they don't recognize it's better to be like, how about I just write a note and blow myself up? And if 7 people are physically injured, maybe lose an eye, maybe their fingers get blown off, maybe they get cut with glass and walk through the rest of their life with a big fucking scar going up their cheek, and everybody has to go, what happened to your face? You go, oh, the fucking Cybertruck bomber, I was fucking checking in and it slit my face. Forever. Think about, like, what an absolute asshole you have to be to feel like you have the right to inflict that kind of shit on other people. It's just gross. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance in the Cybertruck Bombers Manifesto. That's true of manifestos in general. Well, of course. I mean, again, because it's what you're really looking at is someone wanting justification for their grievance taking precedent over other people's grievances. I mean, there is very little difference between this guy, the dude in New Orleans, any school shooter, and some fucker in lines at a Starbucks and the line is too long and they're yelling at the people behind the counter. The line, is a social agreement that we've all decided works better than people bum rushing the fucking counter and grabbing people by the collar. It's not optimal, but there is no optimal because human life is messy. So shut the fuck up or find another branch. They've done everything they can to accommodate your fucking lazy ass. It's not their fault you're late. It's not their fault you have a weird order. It's not their fault that you showed up behind the lady who's getting all the coffees for the office. You, sir, are an asshole. And it's just the same low-end version of that ego. People scream because you're only going 5 miles over the speed limit. No, they scream because they're late and they want to make it your problem. Leave earlier next time. If people are so excited to see you and you're so necessary wherever you're going, you should probably leave early. Shit, if I were you, I'd just camp out from the night before. Who are we talking about? We're 250 KM High. Welcome. We're talking about the Cybertruck dude and his egotism and how all of these people, all of them, including every one of the Jan 6ers who charged up those fucking steps, all suffer from the same narcissistic personality disorder. Their wants, needs, and beliefs override yours or anybody between them and theirs. And until we kind of come to terms with that, we're going to keep seeing a bunch of these. Now, speaking of coming to terms with just what's wonderfulness, we got Tara in the background. Hold on, let me bring it in. Let's see if I can see if this actually works the way it's supposed to, because it should. 3, 2, 1, and blink. There we go. And nope. All right. Why wouldn't it? Oh, because it's a different guest. That's right. Here she is. And 3, 2, 1. Pow. There she is. As she rezzes into our existence. Hi. Tara Dublin rocks. And she's wearing her Wonder Woman punching Trump shirt. And she's got her book, The Sound of Settling, behind her, which you should buy. Go to taradublinrocks.com. Get your copy. etc. We will get there in a moment. So I don't know how much you heard about what I was discussing. A lot,
actually. I was listening a lot while I was getting ready. First of all, I was supposed to have a colonoscopy today.
Oh.
And then and I was actually looking forward to it.
It got snowed out?
Anesthesia would have been preferable to being aware of what's going on today. And literally I was in Target on Friday getting like last minute prep stuff when they called and said, we need to move it. So they're moving it to the 17th. But okay. Anyway, I was just
Wait. You were getting last minute colonoscopy prep stuff?
You have to get Miralax and you have
yes, you do.
Clear liquids, and you have to get something to replenish your electrolytes.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Hey, buddy, I'm not making this job any easier for you. I'm going.
No. The onus is upon me to make sure there is a clean playing field.
No, so, bags of chili the whole way. Just the chili that comes in a bag.
My friend, it's this or not. So. It's I am 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. We have the highest incident of cancer on the planet. So I have to be very proactive, seriously, when it comes to my health. My mother is a breast cancer survivor, so I got the genetic tests for the breast cancer gene, and thankfully I don't have them. But that doesn't mean I won't get any other kind of cancer. I'm watching distant cousins getting it and all of that. So friends, while we still have access to healthcare, I would say go get all your tests. Go get your things. Get all your vaccinations and get your colonoscopies and your mammograms and your gynecological business taken care of. Everything that could be taken away from you, take care of it now. We don't know that that's going to happen because I'm hearing that there are going to be enough congressional Republicans voting with Democrats to be super obstructive. So, but still, be proactive and preventative just in case, because apparently the 14th Amendment is a light passive-aggressive suggestion at this point. So, the Constitution is just a list of passive-aggressive suggestions, don't you know, that we're not supposed to uphold or honor or live by. It's just like the Declaration of Independence and like the Ten Commandments, I guess, just suggestions. Don't murder, maybe don't do this, just maybe don't. If you couldn't, please not do that. We would appreciate it, maybe, perhaps. That's how they're treating the Constitution now. So what I want y'all to do is just make sure your health from top to bottom is taken care of prior to January 20th. Going to the dentist, go, just all of it. Take care of all of it now. And remember that I was looking out for you as your de facto Jewish mother, collectively. Okay, now back to the topic at hand, which is not a colonoscopy. We'll talk about that afterwards. Although
this town needs an enema. So,
yay!
Yeah.
So early. Okay, great.
In reality, in both of these kind of attacks, the New Orleans one and the Cybertruck, suicide by dumb shit situation. The guy in the Cybertruck is only lucky he didn't kill anybody because he really wasn't giving a shit. He filled that thing up with enough to injure.
For Cocoa Puffs.
Right.
I was listening. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Right.
And nothing they always leave a manifesto. That's a thing. And I was listening to a lot of
it is if you're an egomaniac. Yes.
I mean, craziness. Oh, if you're sitting and writing a manifesto calling other people to act violently against the country, you are cuckoo bananas. And, regardless of your affiliate, he sounded like MAGA mixed with libertarian a little
Mixed with
bit.
Bernie, bro. Like, he's all over the map.
Right.
That's
All of it. All of that. If it was bad messaging, it was there, right? It was all lies and conjecture and propaganda and fear mongering. All of that they continue to fall for to this day as they continue to deny what January 6th was and what happened on that day when we all witnessed it live, because those dumb fucks were live streaming the whole thing. So to me, it's like an astonishing disconnect. And again, I understand, like, Republicans want to whitewash our entire history so that there's only a good parts version of America that they can, pass along to future generations if they exist. But the facts are the facts. And 4 years ago, this day, I was sitting at this desk with my television on. I was in a different apartment, but at this desk, we all witnessed it live.
Yeah.
And for me, it was I still feel the same sense of violation that I felt on that day as we watched it happen, right? Because it was like a sequence where he gave the speech at the Ellipse and they were all riled up, and then they were all at the Capitol. And I remember before they breached security, thinking a little too smugly, obviously, like, yeah, good luck. You're not going to stop the certification. And ultimately they didn't. And what's frustrating to me is this willful amnesia that everyone's okay with embracing, and it's not okay. It's absolutely not okay, and it's incredibly important to remember that anybody who set foot in that Capitol that day who was not a sworn-in member of Congress was in violation of so many laws, so many. And don't talk about Ashley Babbitt, and don't talk about anything about that, because you can't use somebody as a martyr if they are perpetrating a crime against the country. She's not a martyr. She was an insurrectionist. She fucked around and found out. And so when we're talking about the Cybertruck guy, or we're talking about the New Orleans guy, or we're talking about anybody who commits an act of domestic terrorism, it's really important to frame it as an act of domestic terrorism. That's what January 6th was. That's what they all are advocating for. And it's important, especially as we go forward, and they're going to try to erase it, and they're also going to incorporate more propaganda, and we're not going to be able to trust information sources. As long as we have breath in our bodies, it's our responsibility. You were talking about anecdotal stories and all of that. Keep telling those stories. Where were you on January 6th? How did it make you feel? What do you remember personally? What are the things that haunt you? What are the things that you take with you to this day? What would you have had everybody do? And so what I've been doing, yesterday and today, is reminding everybody about how Republicans responded that day. And there is video of Mitch McConnell addressing the Senate, and a video of Kevin McCarthy addressing the House. And he's got his mask on to remind everybody of where we were 4 years ago. And both of them are on the floor of Congress saying, Trump has responsibility for this. Trump incited the MAGA crowd. Trump did this. They're on video. It is on my...
Yeah.
I'm still on Twitter, Hal. I'm still on Twitter because I have to be to promote my new job and all of that stuff. And I'm going to have to be on Twitter to promote the new Substack that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Okay.
I know you're making the face. I understand. But what has to be more important right now is being able to get messaging out. I'm willing to delete it if it comes to that. But for now, because I have a new job and I promised to promote it as part of my job. But anyway, regardless, I have thrown a Hail Mary to the Democrats today. And I'm going to share it with everybody here. And I want the MAGA people in the chat to hear it as well as everybody else who's here. I need to know that I personally did absolutely everything I could, whether or not it felt like I was spitting into the Grand Canyon, because I absolutely do feel that way. I'm incredibly disgusted with Democratic leadership. And I have never been more disillusioned or disappointed in the Democratic Party as a whole, because they're not fighting. I don't care if you want to call it election denialism or whatever, but they're not invoking the 14th Amendment. They're not doing anything to uphold our democracy and protect us from the impending fascism. Donald Trump is being sentenced on Friday. And regardless of what the sentence is, the sitting president of the United States should not have a prisoner number. He's a convicted felon. Like, all of the abnormal state of this that has been normalized is abhorrent. And I'm seeing tweets from Jared Moskowitz saying, I'm voting to certify, and John Fetterman bending a knee. And all of it is disgusting to me. So here's what I'm going to tell you, Democrats. You have until 2026 to get me back, because you've lost me right now. I'm still a Democrat. I'm not changing my party affiliation at the moment. I'm not registering as an independent or anything like that. What I'm telling you is this. You work for us. We voted for you. You have the job that you have because of the American people. And you owe us to do everything in your power to uphold democracy. I don't care what it looks like, and I don't care what it sounds like. I don't. What I care about is preserving democracy. And I'm disgusted that my efforts have gone spitting into the wind. I made phone calls. I shared videos of the duty to warn letters. I did everything that I could. And so my pinned tweet right now, because that's where the MAGA people are, and that's where the most members of Congress still are the most active. I'm telling you that if you don't work hard to push back against this motherfucking piece of shit, rapist, pedophile, convicted felon who sold our government secrets to our enemies, I don't see you fighting. I will not fight to re-elect you in 2026. And that's if we get elections, because they're already threatening to fuck with our elections. That's what I'm saying. This is a call to action for all Democrats. Do you like your job? Do you want to keep it? Then we better see you doing something and not just yap, yap, yap. Not just a snarky tweet, not just a speech from the floor. I want to see action. I want to see you
hold
working.
On.
Right?
All right.
So I'm
understood.
just saying, I'm not giving up. You're not giving up. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep organizing. We're going to keep fighting. But it shouldn't. I feel very alone in this fight. I don't see one single congressional Democrat talking about the 14th Amendment. I don't. I mean, if you can show me one who is, that's fabulous. I don't see it. It's a real thing. It should be invoked today. It should be, but it won't be, right?
No, it won't be. No, and there's a myriad of reasons.
Think about our elected Democratic officials today. What are we supposed to think on the anniversary?
That they're swamped and that the voters didn't show up, even though they talked about this the entire year, and that the singular strategy can't be just to appear to be obstructive. They got, again, what's louder than no when you're voting? Most of them are going to vote against everything except the stuff where we get things. Trump is, again, an easily pliable egomaniac and will turn on his own people faster than anyone else. So playing footsie with him verbally out in the open and then voting against the bills that they should will be the test ultimately. I don't care what they do as presentation. I want to see what they do. And in terms of the 14th Amendment, structurally and procedurally, there is no way to advance it. The state charges against him are just that. And if he was found guilty because of the timing of a federal offense, there'd be more of a case that they could actually pull that off. If they choose to go this route in the future, any state in the union could file charges against, and they could just be state charges against any Democrat running for office or any Republican running for office, find them guilty of this thing, be they a series of misdemeanors or actual felonies, and deny them the ability to run for office. As a matter of fact, they could strategically pick and choose people that they could just. You've never set foot in Texas, but Texas files some sort of, Communications Act violation against you that they could pass a law in a fucking county that says if we of this county, just like they want to trace women's periods and follow them across state lines, they can put a law in their own state. Now, would it have extradition from another state to come get you if you lived in California or New York or Wyoming for that fucking matter? No, but they could file state charges against you, find you guilty, and then you can't run for president. That's why they're not acting on it. If it was a federal felony offense that he'd been found guilty of, this is why Merrick Garland has more weight in this than any Democrats do, then they would have someplace to go. That's why. It's 100% why. It would be nice if that was a possibility, but it is too easy to weaponize. That's why they're not doing it. If they do it, there is not a single Democrat in this country that is 2 cycles away from running for president that is not going to be hit with some sort of local bullshit state charge that they are found guilty of. The sentence is held in abeyance and blah, blah, blah. And it just sits there.
It is and then all of it makes me want to peel the skin off of my fucking face.
Right, but it's not on the backs of Democrats at all. This is not. That's why they're not doing it. It's 100% why they're not doing it. If it was a federal charge and Garland had brought federal charges against Donald Trump, they could have enacted it, and that would be that. But since they are state charges, if you empower a single state, any state in this country, think of all the states in this country, fucking Alabama, who would just start filing charges for communications violations or some shit from people, tweets that black leaders put on their fucking Twitter or something like that, that is, they considered an act of terrorism or something like that because they said Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter had done something else. And they file a charge against that person. They can never run for president. They can never take the oath to be president. That's the problem. That's it. It's not on Democrats' back. None of them. All of it. I know that. But I'm saying 100%. I know it's frustrating, but that's why.
No, that's the whole point. And it should never have gotten to this point is the other point.
Right, but it's not on Democrats' backs. It's not on Jared Moskowitz's back. It's not on the back of any House Democrat at all. Not a one. Not a one. None of them are to blame.
Would be delightful then. You know what would be great? If they're going to vote and they're going to vote to certify, I would love for them to make a speech saying, I'm voting under protest because I'm doing this for the betterment of the country, but do that.
Yeah,
fucking just say it and put it in the historic record so that when this election is looked back on, there's always an asterisk by it, like there was before. I want an asterisk by his name forever because he's illegitimate. He doesn't have a mandate. But everything about him is illegitimate, and I'm frustrated because it's not about, let's all get along. It's not about that Pollyanna shit anymore. And
it is if you're downstream from this asshole.
So angry and so frustrated. So I'm going forward, we're going to do what we did last time, which is hope Democrats can find enough Republicans to vote with them to create obstruction against the shittiest of the shittiness, including when it comes to confirming his ridiculous appointments, and maybe they don't confirm Pete Hegseth, and maybe they don't confirm RFK Jr., and maybe they don't let us become more vulnerable to a bioweapon attack. Maybe they do those things so that by the time the midterms roll around, we do have another election, everyone will go, look what happened. Everything that we were warned about has come true. Maybe we should have more Democrats to push back against this shit.
I agree. Well,
that is my own personal plan to survive.
Great. I get it.
To collectively hold them accountable every single day.
Agreed. But let's say
what else can we do?
I agree. From a strategic standpoint, though, is there more or less a chance of someone joining with Democrats to push back against this agenda if they are Democrats that have not declared themselves mortal enemies of the Republican president at that point out in the open? Maybe they do it behind closed doors. Maybe they're talking to Mitt Romney and go, this fucking guy.
Makes me even more mad. Stop doing it behind closed doors. Let's fucking see you tell the truth.
Wait, but we know, hold on, we know as president, he slow rolls emergency action. He slow rolls FEMA response. He slow rolls, PPE. This is not child's play. This is a serious fucking thing. He withheld personal protective equipment from states that talked shit about him to the point where Gavin Newsom, if you'll recall, started going, well, I think the president's working very hard to da-da-da, and he knew it wasn't true. He said after Trump was, kicked out, he said he knew it wasn't true. But it made sure that the state of California didn't get denied PPE when they needed it the most as one of the most highly populated states in the country because he was worried about his citizens getting fucked, and he plied this asshole's ego against him.
It just makes me so mad, and it makes me mad when we can talk about his character and all of that. He's just a coward. I mean, he blocked me on Twitter in 2015 and never unblocked me, even when the DOJ brought him a list of names of people to unblock, and he went, okay, oh no, not her. She's mean. That's your guy? He can't even stand up to some lady on Twitter? That's your guy? Really? The weakness and the compliance, all of it, none of it makes sense to me. I don't get it. And so what we will do collectively as we move forward, including what we're going to do on the sexy liberal stuff on Substack that I'm talking to George about when I'm done talking with you today, we are going to continue to shine a light and put them under a magnifying glass and make sure that we're watching what they say and what they do, because it's going, that's going to matter. It's going to matter how Democrats respond going forward, particularly at a time when our information sources have never been more at risk, because we're going to have a Project 2025 architect controlling the FCC, and you're going to have Carrie Lake controlling Voice of America. And so those are two very important government bodies that make sure information gets to the people. What information is going to get to the people? You're the Associated
VOA
Press.
doesn't.
How are you getting the proper information to the people if those two people are blocking it?
I'd be more worried about it. I'd be more worried about NPR funding than I would about VOA. But NPR can be kept afloat by state grants to make sure that it keeps going during this time if they try to undercut it, because the Republicans have driven down NPR funding to its lowest possible number. So replacing that number isn't particularly difficult, but it is categorically important. VOA is for mostly overseas and military stuff. So they put her in charge of this because they think it's just jingoistic talking points, and they're going to mention a little more Christianity in it or some shit. It's not going to change a fucking thing. The issue I have, again, is the stroke of the pen fallacy. Because we as Democrats have let the Republicans specifically weaponize that against us. And Republicans themselves have their own problem to deal with this. They've been using it as well. They believe that Trump will be able to come in on day one and swick and go through all this shit, right? That's the thing, right? That he'll be able to, and he's not going to be able to. And they're going to turn on him, right? How do we know? Because look at how we as Democrats have turned on our own leadership under the idea that they somehow, again, like something along the lines of the 14th Amendment, aren't just automatically doing it because it should be easy to do. It isn't easy to do. It's not something you do with a signature, or it's cut and dry. And the idea that it's cut and dry, unfortunately, undermines the focus of the party and the goals of the party overall. Our goal should be stick and drive all the time. There is no fucking way I'm voting anywhere but Democrat the next round and the one after that and the one after that. And I'm also not going to, quote, hold people's feet to the fire, specifically if they don't live up to, if they have a 20% variance in how I think they should behave, and 80% of the time they're voting with me. Period. End of story. That's what diversity actually means. That's what diversity really is about.
But we're not going to tolerate any sort of Mansion-y, cinema-esque behavior from Democrats. From
they
people
left.
Who are Democrat. I know they left. What I'm saying is we have a whole bunch of new people now, because a new Congress was just sworn in, new House was sworn in, all these new people were sworn in. If we have to hold Democrats accountable, and they need to vote with Democrats, and they need to uphold the things that are important to us, not sell us out. Now, there's a difference between working with the people on the other side of the aisle and then not representing democratic ideals at all. So Joe Manchin didn't represent us accurately, and Kyrsten Sinema didn't represent us accurately. Now they're gone. But Joe Manchin is gone because he left on his own. He's an independent, and Kyrsten Sinema is gone because we voted her out. That's what we will do when in the next round. I'm never going to vote for a Republican. I don't care who they are, and I will vote for Democrats. But what I am saying is I'm not going to re-elect a Democrat who isn't doing their job. That's the bottom line. If we can replace you with a better Democrat, that's what we're going to do. I'm not saying I want to replace Democrats with a non-Democrat, but once your seat is up, I guess we're going to look back and see what you did.
Right.
You have a track record. We're going to see what you did. That's all.
Right. I understand that. I guess about
holding you accountable and making sure you're doing what we asked you to do. When
my hanging point with this rests with the word accountable. Because a lot of these folks, for example, especially Democrats, and this would even apply, I would argue, to Manchin and Sinema. Sinema took over the seat that was lost by John McCain when he passed away. Manchin was a Democrat from West fucking Virginia, a cold Democrat. the man he's going to be replaced with, like, Manchin for all of his problems voted 80% of the time with Democrats. He pushed back on some things, but 80% of the time he's there. He was replaced by a guy who was going to vote 0% of the time with Democrats. Period. End of story. Okay, that's just reality. And if you're on the receiving end of that, from SNAP to Medicare to emergency funding in West Virginia, all that kind of stuff, you're fucked in West Virginia because your representative switched, because you made a representative switch. You chose to bounce that guy and hire somebody who's going to be damaging to your own life. The same thing is true to some degree of Sinema. Sinema voted 85% of the time with Democrats, and 15% of the time was either fucking around or not doing anything, or voted with Republicans to further a couple of things that were, by the way, extra good for a state. Now, let me give you an example. Sinema voted with Sanders on part of the overall lessening of student debt, and this funding of, and this was the big part that didn't go through, was this funding of community colleges, and like based on per capita number of people going to college in your area, how the federal government would allocate that amount of money to your state. And the reason that they were initially for it was because Arizona, like University of Arizona, or like all the tech colleges that are there, and the same thing in Vermont, they have an outsized number of those students, and they would get an outsized amount of money compared to every other state. Not just per capita, but in the case of Arizona and Vermont, they would get a huge flush of money. And if you evened out the funding across the country, which was another possible provision that they killed, they would get less. Everybody else would get more funding for people across the country to go to community college, but they would get less federal funding, not for the state or whatever. And so they voted against two very democratic things that were based on constituent-related choices. Representative government. They thought, okay, even though we get more than our fair share, that's better for my people in my state, and it's certainly better for me as an elected politician, so I'm going to vote against cutting it, and I'm going to vote for raising it. That's Sanders and Sinema walking hand in hand on those situations. Now, did they violate something that I, as a Californian, as a Democrat, and the fairness of states that maybe even have more red people in them, but might need more education. So I think we should spread those dollars out a little more evenly, forgive more of those loans across different trades and stuff. Would that be better? Yes. But am I going to work any less hard to make sure that there's a Democrat or somebody who caucuses with the Democrats in both of those important states just because they tried to get more for their constituents in sort of a pork barrel issue? That's exactly what Manchin did most of the time in his negotiations stuff. He had clearly has eyes on being president one day, which died a horrible death, and it should. But that's where most of this stuff comes from. My thing is that there are different strategies in different localities, different, from House especially, that can be very purple, to statewide offices that can be very purple, and, for part of it, that sometimes voters will split their ticket, red and blue, and if the other person seems a little too blue or a little too red, they'll bounce closer to that, and we can get 2 seats out of that by seeming centrist or seeming more accommodating, which would, I think, is the argument there. Whether you are or not, seeming is the key word. Then am I going to hold that against them to make sure that we keep a Democrat in that House so that they can continue to vote for 85% of the things, so we can make genuine incremental progress? Because if you look at the Biden administration and what they were able to accomplish, that's how they did it. And I am not going to cut off my drive to get Democrats elected because some of them have to tiptoe around what they say about Trump in their district, or pull their punches a little bit for a while to make sure that he doesn't fucking starve their industries, their food, their water, their emergency supplies, or whatever, because he's a fucking lunatic. To me, that's more important. And it doesn't mean it's the only path. We need firebrand people who are, kicking ass and pushing back on this. But for me, I think we are haunted by the stroke of the pen fallacy. that one stroke of the pen, you could just solve this, that anybody could just solve this issue, that the issues get so black and white, and maggots have this problem just like we do, that they think, why don't they just? I'll tell you why they can't just. Because there are more people involved in this than just us, and they don't all understand it. They don't, even in our own party, because it wasn't Democratic lawmakers that let people down. It wasn't the Biden administration. Biden lived up to, I think, every possible standard a Democratic president could live up to in any feasible way, and then some. Black woman on the Supreme Court, infrastructure bill, stood on a fucking picket line everywhere. And the voters didn't show up. We aren't waiting till 2026 to not show up and hold their feet to the fire and use accountability as a weapon. We already did it. We took a fucking powder. We did. As voters, us. And before we start, I think, arguing that we should broom who's in there, our main focus should be getting Democrats in red seats, period. By being strong on our issues, selling our beliefs in a way that finally reach across the aisle and aren't poisoned by jargon. Because that's where we are right now. The Democratic House and the Senate members and the president himself and the vice president worked her ass off during the campaign. They didn't let us down. We let them down. We trapped them in jargon. We slow rolled our response. We weren't quick to defend.
I don't like the collective pronoun we, because we didn't. You and I didn't.
We as voters.
So many of us
our voter bloc
so hard and showed
I know
every single day.
Right.
And it really chaps my ass when I'm out there doing all of this stuff and someone's like, well, did you vote? Did you get people to vote? And I'm like, you should really find out who a person is before you come for them. Okay?
But there's a reason why, right. I don't take it personally. They're going to throw
bankrupted myself to get to the DNC and fucking fight. So do not, and that's what makes me mad too, is like the assumption that we didn't do enough or this didn't happen or this didn't happen. And part of the reason why I was so angry immediately after those results came in way too fast on election night and that there was no pushback, none of it whatsoever, is I saw up close how hard we worked and how many, just like the sheer volume. And again, I go back to like just the math doesn't math, because we saw record voter registration. We saw record early voting turnouts. We saw record numbers of Gen Z voters turning out, record numbers of black voters turning out. The people who didn't turn out were white women as much. We saw those numbers too, but I am still not convinced about the numbers that we saw on election night, because that was some hinky shit. Because we have, in the recent past, we did not learn, like in 2020, it took several days for them to count all of the votes, and we did not find out on election night. And I didn't think we should find out on election night this time around. And there was proof from data scientists saying, this is hinky, this is fine. You don't want to look into it, don't look into it. What I am saying is, going forward, I am going to be watching and making sure and not resting and being on your ass and watching closely and holding. It's about the accountability. It's accountability for Republicans as well as Democrats. And everybody should be held up to the same standards. And right now we have a bunch of fucking children running around. And it's frustrating. And I just want the adults back. The pre-25 morality that we had. The pre-25 standards that we held our elected officials to, until Donald Trump came in and flew his diaper all over our political norms. I was fine with whatever happened, because it seemed fair. It seemed like a level playing field. And it seemed like no one was a puppet master. No one was pulling strings. That there seemed to be equal opportunities for everybody. Doesn't seem that way now. It just doesn't, because of the advances of technology, the advances of social media, the way Elon Musk used Twitter to manipulate algorithms and push propaganda, and all of this shit that we did not have to deal with prior to 2015. None of it is normal. And so what we have to try to do is navigate a new normal going forward after this, because we did what we could to make sure that we kept Democrats in charge, Democrats who had lifted us out of a pandemic depression, Democrats who gave us health care, Democrats who passed bills to make our daily lives better, Democrats who brought back 16 million jobs after Donald Trump lost 3 million jobs. Mm-hmm. All of the things that Democrats have done to clean up the messes Republicans made. Going forward, I want to make sure that they are constantly cleaning that up and maintaining what they cleaned up, because what we have now and what the legacy that Joe Biden is leaving, that's what I want Democrats to be preserving and working to uphold. That's what I mean by accountability.
They are. I get that. I'm with you. I'm with you. Yes.
We're talking about going forward, right?
Right. Yes,
so
of course.
We're talking about you're not going to stop Trump now. Going forward, you're going to uphold everything that Joe Biden is doing now and not letting Donald Trump undo it.
Okay, and again, I think a certain level of, realism and my own, I guess, articulated brand of informed naivete. I'm not going to assume the worst.
We can have hope, right? Are we allowed to hope?
Yep. The idea that I'm going to take as rote any tactic that a Democrat uses going forward to manipulate an easily manipulatable dough-headed fuck who's in the White House going forward until he's no longer there or no longer able to serve or whatever happens to him in the next couple of years as MAGA turns on him because he's not able to do any of the bullshit promises he made. The Democrats go, hey man, what works better? This is the example I'm trying to give. What works better? You fought against him, and you like never a fucking line, no fucking no. Every day, that's all you do. Verbally, you go on the floor, that's all you do. And then when he fails, who does MAGA blame? They stopped him. Everything he tried to do, they stopped him. They made sure he couldn't do it. They fought everywhere, in every committee. But if they're like, hey, we want the country to succeed, which is what Fetterman was, making the argument about. Like, you want the country to succeed because you want the president to succeed. You want him to be successful. And what he meant was the country blooms, not his plan to fucking broom everybody. But that's an important distinction that nobody bothered to make. But in this, if you're the person who's like, yeah, dude, I was trying to help you, you're the fuck up. Works better against their own people than it does with us. So I'm not going to immediately castigate whatever strategy, especially knowing what we know about Trump's ego, that different Democrats in different districts talk about this, period, in press or anywhere else. Even if it means like, hey man, clearly they think there was a mandate, so we're going to have to give him some room to do what he's going to do, but we're going to protect these people and these people, which is how all of them are talking. That has more value down the line when this guy's inevitable fuck-ups come to bear. And at the same time,
fucking up. But when Democrats say, but I want the president to succeed, what did he succeed at last time? Because you said that last time.
Right. He didn't. That's not, again, it's a turn of phrase.
Succeed at this time. Why do you think it's going to be any different? That's what makes me angry.
They don't.
It's like, what he is. You know what they're going to do. You know it's going to be bullshit.
Right. And last time they blamed us. Right. I know. That's what I'm saying. Last time they blamed us. Last time they went, it was Russia, and I should get another term. That's where Trump got his whole, I deserve another term because I was so busy dealing with all the attacks and criticism and stuff that I didn't even get to implement all the great things I was going to do because I was so busy. Remember that? I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up. That's what he ran on. And his people
playing the victim.
I know, but his people bought into it. Read the manifesto of this fucking dipshit who set himself on fire, who blew himself up in front of. That is the ad absurdum version of that talking point carried to its natural psychotic conclusion, and that's what he did the entire time. And did it work? Did it work? No.
I don't. But what does blowing yourself up in an ugly truck really do? It just makes people talk about what an idiot you are for blowing yourself up in an ugly truck. I mean, people won't remember what he did, why, or what it was from. It's just such a perfect visual metaphor for everything about the MAGA cult. A Cybertruck on fire in front of a Trump hotel,
right.
That's a perfect visual for us to use every single time Trump does something that fucks up, where he fucks up again. It's like, well, here it is. MAGA on fire. Here you are. This is what you voted for. And the only issue that I have with it is that we have to pay for them being in a cult. And that's not fair to us. We shouldn't have to be punished for what they did. But we will be as much as they will be. And you and I, every time I have been on this show, knowing MAGA people are in the chat, I say it every single time. I don't want one single person to die because of Donald Trump. And now more people will. They voted for their own demises. I don't understand it. I will never understand it because they will never provide an answer that makes sense to me as to why they did it. But as they find out what they voted for, so will we. And so our job on the daily is to try to stay positive and find the good stuff to keep people motivated to keep fighting, and not because that was what they tried to do last time, right? Exhaust us, so that we would just be like, okay, fine, do whatever you want. Like, that's his whole life in a nutshell. He wears people down, so we can't let that happen.
I agree. Okay, so this is the point. This is the point I'm trying to make. First of all, we will have plenty to fight against and push against and build up, from what Democrats are trying to do, period. And there's no variance in the Democratic Party's goal for plurality and healthcare and functional infrastructure and making our economy more equitable for people, and making sure that nobody's born with a fucking ball and chain attached to their leg because of their race or their religion or their country of origin. All that. That's the Democratic purview. Period. End of story. There may be tactical differences, but that's the DNA of the party. And so there is zero value in even acting like that needs to be fought around the edges, because there is so much to push back against when it comes to Trump. And the imperfections of the Democratic Party are their languaging about how we would like them to talk or how we would like them to act or vote, again, on a straight burn line, which I think is, again, damages people down the road the same way that, getting rid of the ACA with nothing to replace it does. Same fucking tactic. If we do, I'm not voting with anything these motherfuckers put forward. End of story. Fuck nothing. That means no debt ceiling, no budget. If their budget doesn't give us what we want, I'm taking my ball and going home. These sacrificial votes. Well, 80% of these bills, are continuations of discretionary spending and how it will be spent, and people's lives rely on it. And so, of course, you have to vote with. That's where the leverage comes from. And if we just give up, we're the only ones fighting for the actual people. They pretend to. So what we have to stand for is the thing that are in them, better articulate what we're trying to get into bills so that they come across, to a broader group of people. You need people articulating. You don't need fighters. You need communicators, and you need debaters. That's what we need in the House and the Senate. We can fight out here on fucking social media and yammer all we fucking want to, and I get to curse because I'm not in a negotiation about a piece of legislation that has to get passed, but I'm trying to get 18 sentences into this that will change people's lives for the better, and they're trying to strip them out. That's right. Work. That's the work. And so
I'm fine with Democrats working with Republicans as long as it's something that's going to benefit Americans on a daily basis. I expect Democrats to push back when there are Republicans introducing bills to dismantle the Department of Education. I really expect a lot of pushback there.
Yeah, I don't think that's
where I'm
right.
Talking about the accountability. It's they're going to try to get away with all of this fuckery, and it's Democrats' job to make sure that they don't, and make sure that if the stuff that passes that makes things work, great. That's awesome. I'm talking about the insane shit that they're threatening to do to our country. I want Democrats pushing back against that stuff, eradicating vaccines and
I
all
hear
that
you.
NIH,
and
all of
I
that
think
shit.
you're going to see
I'm
that.
not talking about the stuff that makes sense. I don't want Democrats to fight against.
Okay, but where's the
trade-off
window? Where's the trade-off? Where's the trade-off window? Something's going to get passed. Something's going to go through. They have enough votes to get something through in the Senate, for example. They don't need somebody to cast a tie-breaking vote. The Senate Republicans make a deal with Senate House members on one particular thing, so the tax break or whatever, and then right along with it, it has something fucking horrible in it. And the Democrats managed to get that out, but in exchange for it, they have to vote for another thing in it or something, or they have to help pass a lesser two evil bill. Right.
Yeah.
Because we're in a democracy. So are we going? Here's the thing. Every time we talk about two Democrats, like Manchin and Sinema back in the day, crossing the aisle and voting with Republicans, we forget that all the Republicans voted lockstep for this shit and act like it's a zero-sum game, that somehow this is a Democratic problem, instead of all the Republicans are against this. And the Republicans do the same shit. The MAGA crowd does the same shit with any senator who votes our way, in their theory, on stuff that just needs to pass. Sensible, normal legislation. They obliterate them over it. It's a mistake. Now, ultimately, that mistake will cost them the House and the Senate, I believe, in the future. But only if Democratic voters show up. And if we're spending all of our time backbiting over compromises that are made when you're not in power, as if you have a mandate, we're in the same boat Trump's people are. We are.
I had a point that I was going to make, and then I lost it.
That's okay. When Cornel West, when Obama was in office and Cornel West said, we have to hold brother Barack's feet to the fire. He said this all the time. We have to hold brother Barack's feet to the fire. He said it day fucking one. And I was like, okay, first of all, asshole, that's a torture method that goes back to slavery and the fucking Spanish Inquisition.
And we're not supposed to use it now.
No, I don't even like it as an analogy. Fuck off with that bullshit. Secondly, you want to hold Dems' feet to the fire for? Then look at our incremental progress over time. Look at the Supreme Court we've helped create versus what Republicans create. Look at the ACA. Look at the infrastructure bill. Look at the rescue package. Look at the CHIPS Act. Look at jobs and job creation every time a Democrat gets in office. I don't want to hear shit. Even the half-assed namby-pamby Democrats of fucking Moynihan, back in the day, would be better served to help more of the American people than anybody. And you could argue they were to the right of Manchin and Sinema about shit.
I'm just really trying to remember what my point was.
That's okay.
From before, because it was a good one.
I don't doubt it. I know it happens to me all the time.
It was something like there have been times when Republicans have come together to vote with Democrats on things that make sense, just because they make sense overall. And then there's always like one person who stands out and doesn't. And so Democrats and Republicans came together to vote for a sex trafficking bill to make sure that kids couldn't get sex trafficked. And a Republican voted against it. And collectively everyone was like, and there was a shrug. Matt Gaetz is this lone holdout on a sex trafficking vote. And everyone just kind of was like, meh.
But wait, hold on. Right? Hold that thought for a second.
That's when it's good. My point is, that's good when Republicans and Democrats come together. That was one person in the whole Congress who stepped aside and said no. So I'm not saying every Republican is a MAGA, every MAGA is a Republican. And I'm not saying there is an impossibility. I'll just go back to my original statement, which is I'm going to be watching you and I'm going to be paying attention to how you vote and what those votes do and what they mean. Because the issue, you are so smart and you know so much minutia about what votes, when you were explaining the stuff about Sinema and Manchin and why they voted the way they do. Those intricacies of the voting process within the House and the Senate, most Americans don't understand that.
Right.
It's never been explained to them, right? And so all we get is, this is how they voted. We never know the why. We never know the reasoning. And that is also why and I'm so guilty of it, you jump to a conclusion before you have all of the information. And in these particular cases going forward, I'm personally, and I will make this vow to everybody, before I jump anybody's shit, I'm going to look and see what that bill is about and make sure that when Democrats voted the way they voted, it was because it was going to be beneficial overall for the country at large. That's what I'm looking for, right?
Right.
I'm not saying, I don't expect everybody to lie down, and I also don't ever expect everybody to stonewall. What I'm expecting is everybody to vote in our best interest, because that's what we've elected you to do. So that's what we need to be watching. And
agreed.
You and I and everybody else in the sexy liberal universe, as we go forward, it's our job to break this shit down for those of people who are interested in learning about it and tune in regularly all the time, because they're invested in our democracy and the future of this country. And every day I learn more and more about process. And every time I come on your show, I learn all about something new to help me get through my day when all of this fuckery goes on.
That's what I'm trying to do. And it's super clear.
And that's why I took a break.
Yeah.
That's
right.
also why I took a break, because I needed to figure out how I personally was going to go forward.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, and I get emotional because it matters to me so much. And I was talking with this about a friend of mine that I was hanging out with over the weekend. I can't not care. I wish I could. I wish I could be one of those people that just goes, meh, and goes about my daily life, and I don't pay attention to anything that, all of that bullshit. And I want to tell you, there was a time where I lived like that, when my children were very, very small, and I was insulated in a marriage because I had a husband who could take care of me and was a doctor with a 6-figure salary, and all of that was sweet and soft, and I was insulated. But now that I'm not anymore, I can't not care about it.
Okay, by the way, I would like to say for the record.
And so.
Yeah, I would like to say for the record, if I may, point of order, if I may, Madam Chairwoman.
Point of order, sir.
Yes. That no. I don't think anybody in my chat would ever ask you to not care. Here's what I would say.
Yeah.
The issue I have is not with when people have empathy or caring about these things. As a matter of fact, I think that is part and parcel, in my mind, to being a Democrat in the first place. It's that when your empathy is weaponized against you and you are brought to believe certain fallacies, like I would say the stroke of the pen fallacy, and the desire you have is derailed, and you are, you get overwhelmed with stress, not because of the seriousness of the issue by itself, but by the illusion that the cure was right there, that there was something so simple, and if this simple thing had happened, that's all we needed, when in fact it is a much more complex and much more dense issue, and it requires convincing and being able to direct and entice human beings rather than argue and fight with them. This is why I don't like when, I mean, we now know what frauds TYT are, and everybody has finally realized that I wasn't just popping smoke the whole fucking time.
I always believed you. I always believed you. We're just seeing everybody's true colors now.
Right. And the stroke of the pen fallacy comes straight from their shit. If we don't get everything, nobody gets anything. That is very distinctly a methodology they put in place to take the empathy and the beliefs and the desires of their viewers and go, sure the Republicans are problems, but the real problem is Democrats. That was what they did the whole fucking time. And instead of dealing with the actual threat, the 100% lockstep voting against like the only protection of Social Security coming from Democrats for years and years and years and years, what it was this Manchin or Sinema or somebody wiggling one way or another because of other aspects of the bill, other aspects of the funding, other aspects, or that they were they had the right to make a protest vote because they knew it was going to pass anyways, those kind of things. So they're given a little leeway, that kind of strategy that always fucking happens, but fucking Johnson's having to do it every which way.
Yeah, I just remember what my point was that I was going to make.
Okay, good. Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Did you remember? Okay.
Yes. This is also part of what the Republican Party wants. They want us infighting.
Right.
They want us They want us attacking each other, and they want us to not trust each other, and they want us to be doing that so that we're not watching them. And that's why Rachel Maddow says ignore what they say, watch what they do. But one of the things that they're doing is that they've helped sow mistrust in our own party, because of the way that people are talking about and assigning blame for the election results. And so that's a part of, I think, why we saw Donald Trump in cahoots with Elon Musk, because Elon Musk loves to fuck with people. He wants to just sow chaos everywhere. And that's all part of it. It was part of why he bought Twitter in the first place, was to start us on this path of this infighting to weaken us as a party, which we should reverse psychology on them, and that should actually strengthen us.
Agree.
Because we know what
Which is why I am not going to attack Democrats. I don't have to waste my fucking time.
Unless they do something really bad.
No,
you have to hold them accountable if they do something bad.
No, again, what are they going to do that's really bad? What are they going to do? Again,
I
it's
don't know.
absurd.
Look at John Edwards. Did anybody see that John Edwards shit coming? No.
Okay, here's the thing. John Edwards was a fuck around. That's an example
I always use.
I know you do. I know you do, and that's exactly my point. Because fuck John Edwards, and I don't care. And
exactly.
it was, but on a political level. Just like I didn't give a shit if Clinton got a blowjob. His personal social life shit that went on. John Edwards himself, as a voter, when necessary, if he'd had to cast the tie-breaking vote in the Senate at some point as vice president, or certify the election and have a peaceful transfer of power, all the normal shit we expect, he'd have done it. Fucked up as he was, and it wasn't reason enough to kick like John Kerry, who would probably want to, better even than Gore, would have been one of our better environmental presidents, right? Do you think John Edwards, all of the fucking scandal about John Edwards was worth capsizing Kerry instead of Bush for a term? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, anybody, does anybody think that, right? I don't care if that guy gets broomed, and Democrats as a party aren't on the hook for the people we broom, for the Menendez of the world, or the ones we tell to fuck off.
We get blamed for that, but the Republicans don't get blamed for it.
I don't care. I can't control what they're doing. I can just mock it.
No, but we can hold our own accountable, which is another thing that matters.
We already do.
I'm agreeing with you.
I think we overcompensate in some ways, again, especially when it comes to normal wear and tear politics.
Well, Al Franken is a great example of overcompensating when you're talking about accountability, because he didn't do anything worth getting kicked out of the Senate for. That was crazy.
And why were we overcompensating? To prove ourselves to Republicans. To show the purity test wasn't even among Democrats. It was to show them that our standard was higher than theirs, and so they painted us into a pious corner, and he got jettisoned because of it. Think of all the votes that he would have made, and the policies he would have championed had he stayed in. Right? Okay. So that said, I don't have any time for the penny ante. Political machinations of House or even Senate Democrats in my states fighting Republicans every time they vote. When the vote comes up, they're voting the way they have to because they are voting to get the best stuff they possibly can across the finish line. And if the choice is between the lesser of two evils, choose less evil every fucking time, because incremental progress is how everything is done. It's how you lose weight. It's how you gain weight. It's how you exercise. It's how you heal from an injury. It's how you raise fucking children. It's how you learn a fucking lesson. Everybody wants to believe it's like fucking Neo in the Matrix, where you can just fucking put a spike in the back of everybody's heads and they're like, I know political kung fu. Like, eat shit. No. And I'm not ever gonna. I'm sorry. And I know. Like I said, I have a bunch of people on our side of the political and media spectrum who disagree with me on this, and I'm fine with that, because I feel like at the very least, if I have any value at all, it's holding that line. I am far too overwhelmed and far too busy going after the myriad of reasons to attack Republicans for the direct attacks they are doing than any strategy differential I might have with individual Democrats in fucking House seats or state Senate seats or Senate seats in the country, that especially in states I don't fucking live in. Right? I don't know. Democrat 100% of the way. If they're trying to get elected, I'm for it, because I know the party as a whole will, if we have a Menendez among us, we will broom them because they were full of shit in the first place. Not an issue. And if I have somebody who's voting with me 85% of the time, for the myriad of human beings, actual red-blooded human beings that will be affected by the policy of those 85% of the time, that is a better choice than a zero-sum prick who, that the Republicans can march in because we're backbiting. Sorry.
That is something that I am going to try to remember going forward, because sometimes it's hard to remember that when you're reacting emotionally. And when you get emotional and get carried away with stuff, you can lose sight of what, if you are worried about emotions, you forget about the actual practicality of things. I'm guilty of it. I know I'm guilty of it. I'm working on it. I'm a flawed human. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, we all are. Everybody's trying to do their best.
understand.
I'm just trying to
For
give
me,
you
it's
another tool
unlucky.
in your toolbox.
Yeah, no, for me, it's just unlucky. Why are you doing that? Why? Oh, okay. Now I get it. Now I get why you're doing something. I don't have to like it and I don't have to agree with it. But if I can understand it, at least I can move on to the next thing and not have this be a thing that's always a thing. That's all. And again, it's about accountability. I expect Democrats to do their job to the best of their ability, and we'll just see what that means.
As long as you don't haunt them with the stroke of the pen fallacy, and as long as you don't assume first that if they go along with something or they're meeting somebody halfway or trying to develop something that they're suddenly like a race traitor effectively in the descriptives, because that's what happens online. That's what drove apart a lot of stuff during this. Is what drove down our voter rolls this time around, was that kind of talk. It simply did. And Republicans don't fear, one of the reasons why they don't fear Democrats a lot of times is because they know we're easier to shake than their base. Marshalling their base because it's all fear and xenophobia and an attack on the other, which is fucking lizard brain shit and requires no gray area, right?
Right.
It just doesn't. Is way easier to marshal a base than the herding cats of the Democrats. And it's one of the reasons why we don't have cut and dry bumper sticker ideas, because we have a variance of human beings. So I feel like our goal should be to embrace the complexity. Don't act like anything's cut and dry. And then that'll make Republicans nervous. You want to make them nervous? Like, yeah, we're cool. We'll win next time. We got that. Okay, I see what you're doing there. Yeah, let's have a little piece of that. Jesus Christ, when she took no tax on tips for hospitality workers, remember how weirded out he thought that was going to cost him the election with a big group of people, and she was very distinct. Hospitality workers. So you can't just put tips mean anything. Therefore, Menendez wouldn't even go to fucking jail. It would have gotten, you could argue it would have gotten Hunter Biden off, because he didn't get his direct salary. Any bonus he gets, that's kind of a tip from your business, isn't it? So you don't have to pay taxes on that, so off he goes. Like, it's so stupid, they didn't even think it through. She made a very distinct point about it. Nobody except me and maybe one or two other people, I suppose, I'm assuming somebody else noticed it. She made that distinction where she didn't. Where he didn't, rather. And so, it's up to us to embrace that complexity as much as we can, because that will make them nervous. If they're like, oh, yeah, I love that. When they're like, you want to do that? Like the debt ceiling. Another great example. Trump calls for getting rid of the debt ceiling. We were all just talking about that 3 years ago. Remember that shit? When the Republicans wanted to use that as leverage to stop all kinds of social spending, they're like, well, we can't. They were holding that line at it. He wants to get rid of it entirely. Cool, man. Like, if every Democrat, when he said that, went, abso-fucking-lutely, let's put that on a clean bill right now. Trump's a man. Like, do you know how they would have flipped out? Jesus Christ.
Maybe they can just reverse psychology everything.
Yes, right. That's what a bunch of them are doing. That's what a bunch of them actually are doing. They're not just doing it with him. They're also doing it with the pink and red voters in their district and making sure that they stay in there, because the lesser of two evils is always preferable. And what you have is a pickpocket versus a serial killer. And if we go, oh, the pickpocket, I don't like him too much, or I view him as a pickpocket, even though he hasn't gotten a trial, which is what's happening in a lot of these areas, they'll replace him with a fucking serial killer.
Yeah.
And I'm not
going to
let
This is what my
happen.
effing birds
People
calendar
matter.
says for today. It says, oh, great, another season of Escape from Dumbfuck Island for today. Isn't that perfect? Isn't that perfect for today? It's so perfect.
I mean,
or maybe they could.
It's a weird thing to call my show, but I get it.
I'm not sure. Anyway, so
I appreciate you, and I'm glad we could have this conversation. And I think it's got value.
We can work through this together.
We can, absolutely.
This conversation shows you can be all in your feelings, and then somebody can be like, "Hey, I hear you in your feelings, but here's a way to get through your feelings." That's what you're here for. I appreciate you always getting me through my feelings. That means a lot. No, it does. It means a lot. And, when I feel like I'm just yelling into the abyss. I had a friend who I had a friend who told a reporter here wrote an article about me a few years ago. My friend Betty said, Tara just wants to right all of the wrongs in this world. And I just thought that was really nice. And then she said, and she always uses her voice and fights so hard, and I just want to see her succeed. So short of that, my friends, in the chat, I have now sold 967 copies. 967.
We're almost at 1,000. Come on.
We are almost at 1,000.
That's great.
Can we get me to 1,000 before the end of January? Yes,
hot
we
roll.
can. I
Let's
believe
do
in
it.
us.
Totally.
I believe in us at TaraDublinRocks.com. Ellen Barkin loves this book. I just sent, Rosanna Arquette has a copy. Hal Sparks has a copy.
It's true.
Mark Hamill has a copy. So, it's all about goodwill. Here's what we are definitely going to do, regardless of anything else that is happening, is that we are going to embrace all the goodness that we can in life every single day, because nobody is taking that from, no one is taking this from me. No one's taking your talent, your heart, your joy, nobody. And I don't care what else they do. I don't care what they say. I don't care how many mean tweets I get from Mongo. Oh no, a mean tweet. What will I ever do?
Right.
You're not going to make me stop being me. You're not taking my soul. You're not taking my heart. You're not taking my spine. None of it. So, like the old song says, ain't nobody going to break my stride. Let's, by the way, I need one of those Hal Sparks rock and roll t-shirts. Definitely.
Yes, absolutely. I will get you one of these.
Definitely. Look at that. That is so fucking boss. Look at that.
It's pretty good.
It's retro. It's fire. I love it.
Yeah.
It says everything in just 2 words because you picked the perfect font and everything. It's perfect. It's perfect and amazing. See? Find the joy.
That's right.
And also, as soon as you and I are done here, I have a few minutes, and then I'm getting on the phone with our buddy George, the producer, and we're going to talk Sexy Liberal and how we're going to be doing the Sexy Liberal Political Voices Network Substack.
Love it.
Everyone's going to be able to sign up for soon, and we're going to have info about that. And so, again,
I have a Substack. Can I haven't used it much, but can I attach it to that? Tell George. Tell George I'll take my. I've got a Substack that I'm parked. And I'll attach it to it or something, because I was going to live stream to it.
I'm delighted to see you doing promotion. Don't forget to promote your radio show.
The radio show is.
I always tell you. So.
It's the podcast. He has the radio show. He doesn't give a shit about.
The podcast. Promote Hal's podcast.
That's right. Hal Sparks podcast. Megaworldwide.
We have said the 3 words. Promote Hal's podcast.
There you go. Excellent.
Guys,
so I really do want to say this.
Please. No, I just want everyone to be good to each other. That's what I want. That's
right. Do not let your empathy and your caring are too valuable. Do not give the reins of them. From me. No one, but they won't try to take it. They will try to take the reins of it and direct it where they want, and that's where they turn us against each other. That's why they undermine each other. They do the same thing to, like, maggots do this with the Mitt Romneys of the world and the rhino hunting and all that.
No loyalty.
I'm not buying into any of that shit.
We're not going to let them poison us. We didn't before. We haven't since. So we're the Resistance 2025 now. We're just going to keep resisting in the ways that we always have. And they're going to try to come up with new ways. And we're going to be like, no, we're not falling for that fuckery. We're just not. So we're going to keep being us. We have to wait and see what happens, which I hate. I don't like waiting. I don't like to wait and see. I'm a make shit happen person. So we have to keep making shit happen in the best way for each other.
I agree.
So sign up for my Substack and follow me on all the socials. And be good to everybody.
Okay. Thank you so much. See you next time.
And take care of each other.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Tara. There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, who was the lovely troll in there that said, "What are you 2 ladies talking about?" Because I guess it's because I have long hair. Is that the deal? Well, so you would have walked up to Jesus and the apostles and gone, "What's up, ladies?" That's what you would have done. You would have gone to you think that on the set of the Vikings, you'd spout that shit? Huh? You think you go up to walk up to a samurai and go, "Nice man bun." Shoo, you silly person. Yeah, find me a picture of Jesus with a crew cut, and then fold it into like one of those cootie catchers, and then squish it down really tight and shove it up your ass. So I could think of a better thing to do with it. I guess put it in your nose or something. Whatever. Up your nose with rubber hose. How about that? Huh? Yeah, that's right. I use my big boy words. So. Thank you guys, and thank you, Water Goddess, for pointing this out. Again, the more something is an actual emergency, the more your stability and ability to work with what's around you in the moment matters. If something isn't an emergency or isn't a crisis, you can talk about options, lots of them. Why not this and this and this, and why not this and this and this? But if you're in a real emergency, if you're in a real crisis, it is that because your options are limited. And attacking the other helpers is not, even if you disagree with them, is not helpful. I hope that makes sense. And again, this isn't to dissuade you from the idea of, fight. If you want to fight. But let me tell you something. If you're just yelling at the choir, you're not fighting. That's not really fighting. And if you can't reach the other folks, you're not convincing any new people. Therefore, what's the fight? What are you fighting with? Now, if there are people who you can't overwhelm, you can't change their mind, or whatever, they don't listen, right? Sure. Then your goal should be everyone who can, everyone else. And there are only two ways that you can extract attention from a group of sympathizers that lean another way than you do. One is by pointing out how wrong, how drastically and exorbitantly supremely wrong the people that they are currently aligned with are, and how deep that mistake goes by the merits, facts and figures, and a real focus on reality they can't escape in talking about it, and mocking. Those are your two ways. Make fun of them. Because if they won't leave because the facts aren't on their side, a lot of times they'd rather not be embarrassed by standing next to a dipshit that somehow they are afraid of being aligned with. Does that make sense? And that's what I try to do on the show. You could argue that those are the two primary streams of information that I have on my show. I make fun of these assholes, and I point out just how deeply and abidingly wrong they are. So the idea that I would waste any fucking time bitching about an elected representative of another state or another House seat or that I didn't vote for or didn't get elected in my district, or even have the ego that if they were in my district, that they're not obeying the way I want because we won 60-40 in their district even. Like, the amount of ego in that is just fucking extraordinary. And my ego is big enough. Trust me on that. I don't need to get out over my skis and go, I will not be ignored, right? What are we going to do about Elon Musk? My God, there's something we can do. Yes, Stargal, a couple of things. One, don't buy a Tesla. Two, annoyingly promote Jeff Bezos's and Richard Branson's space programs over his, even if you feel like you're holding your nose, because obviously Bezos is manipulating Trump in a way that Musk is not, and eventually that will be clear to both of them. So yeah, really, don't buy a Tesla. Don't own Tesla stock. Don't be on Twitter. Don't help him make money in any way. That's the start. That's the primary one. That's what you can actually do in the locus of your control. The other thing you can do is laugh at every Tesla you see around the person that is driving it. That's a start too. I've noticed that they seem very susceptible to snickering and pointing. Nice Tesla. You know what I mean? Yeah. That'll help immensely, right? So that you'd be amazed how far it goes. That's a start. It's a start. Again, these are the things you can absolutely do. And then there's the secondary things you can do, which is you can, I guess you could foment any of the gaps between Trump and Musk and where they have obvious conflict coming up. You should exacerbate those. Every time Trump says something that goes against what Musk wants, or vice versa. I mean, at the very least, an "oh shit" gif will get you pretty far, I suppose. But you can, I would say, like, not blow it up, blow up that idea, like that, hey, wow, I don't think Trump's going to like that in conversation. Or if you're talking to a maggot and you're like, hey, I understand that Trump wants to do this, but, and what's this H-1B thing? Those kind of things. Yeah, that's what Stargal, I know. The H-1B visa thing is a great one. That's going to dog them for months, if not years, because they're serious about salvaging it. Trump is talking out of his ass. There are a lot of baseline Republicans who are dead set against it. It is probably one of the biggest dogfights about to happen in the party. They're going to forget about it because he'll fulfill part of his promise to broom brown people out of Texas until the tech industry and the fucking, all the Elon Musk's office can't find fucking workers. And I mean the people that he hires under the table, specifically janitorial service, landscapers, all the stuff that they all pretend don't exist, until everybody who works it, there that has a nanny that they know isn't legal, but they've been paying her under the table so they can undercut, they don't want to pay as much to somebody else or go through a service where people actually have a pension or any of that shit, right? We can have a different argument about whether or not those people deserve special protection, which I think, or a special kind of a visa, probably a great idea for those folks. But they're against it, so in goes the crowbar and we start wiggling. I don't think they actually want a solution, so why do I worry about the inconsistencies in their argument? I'm just trying to drive a wedge because they don't want to do anything good to start with. Fuck them. So, there are places you can do it too that don't make him money. Telegram. You can, it actually is probably better to have a Truth Social account. I'm not kidding, because it's free. And they don't have any of those tiers that you get. I think you can get one that's like a streaming service attached to it, which is just like cable. It's so dumb. But you don't need it to bitch at him, right? And here's what you do. You want to know what you do? Okay, well, hold on, chat room. Before I let you go, here's what you need to do. This is so... I know I'm going to catch hell for this, but I don't give a shit. Okay. What you're going to do, because this is what they do, so I'm just going to let you know. You're going to go to Proton Mail. You're going to go to Proton Mail, okay? And you're going to start a free Proton Mail account, which is all like highly encrypted. Maggots love it. They so do. They love Proton Mail because it's like, whatever. Okay, good. There you go, Stargal. Then open up a second one, because I think you can have a second account one and call it something stupid, like, waste of time at proton.me or something like that. Get your Truth Social account using that. As a matter of fact, use a Russian name or something if you want. Again, fight fire with water. So... get an account, name it whatever the fuck you want. You're not going to use it for anything else. And just use it for accounts where you're being a dog. You're just being a dick. And then get your Truth Social account with that one. And then just post Trump memes on there, mostly pictures. Or what really drives it home, ugly pictures of him. Pictures that he hates. Just find ugly pictures of him. Yeah, I mean, you're asking things you can do to push back on him during this time that'll make you feel better. I'm just telling you, this is one of the things you could do. This is a multi-pronged strategy, right? You don't get Starlink, get Kuiper, or just use fucking Verizon or something temporarily until such time. If you don't live out in the fucking boondocks, like in the mountains of Wyoming, and then even then you can get DirecTV or some other satellite service, like full-on satellite service, right? Every picture of Trump is ugly. But you know there are ones he hates, Forever Young. You know that, right? Right? You know that, okay? So have your accounts on those things off of this one particular one, because you don't need to hear you don't need any of the fucking stuff eating up you're not even going to check in. You're just going to use it for two-factor authentication to log in on shit. You don't need it for anything else. That's all you're going to use it for. And then you jump in there and you just do, every so often, whenever he posts something, if Elon Musk does one of those things and it shows up in your feed and you're like, he attacks somebody in the Trump campaign, whatever, and there's always a screenshot. Somebody usually posts it on Blue Sky, for example. Grab it, download the picture, and upload it on Truth Social on your Dunk account, and watch them fight amongst themselves. And don't respond, by the way. Don't give them that. Who's Kristen Novak? I think they made her up. Or she works there. I don't know, but Eric certainly knows. This is just their ad. This is their front page. So I don't know why they used that name. I think it's probably maybe it's not the CEO. So whatever. Anyways. So yeah, use that. And yeah, with Proton, your data belongs to you. No tech companies, governments, or hackers. Here's the cool part. Here's why you do it. Here's why you use Proton to do it. You're going to love this. And why you use it to post on Truth Social to annoy him. All the maggots love Proton mail. Okay? Just know this. And if Trump ever gets a wild hair up his ass, who the fuck are these people posting all these shitty pictures of me? They're there. Crack into Proton mail. I need the name of this person. Right? If they do that, then Proton mail gets cracked and everybody, all the maggots have to run for another site. It's the same thing that happened with the Parler hack and all this stuff. What you want to do is make him undermine all their little places they run where they go, I'm on base, you can't touch me, right? That's one of the ways you do it. So does that make sense? So you use a Proton mail account and then you post your like little jib jabs on Truth Social using an account you made with that and a name that sounds annoying, whatever. I mean, because that's what they're doing on Twitter, Takes one to know one, and it's actually you. You're not using a bot to do it. It's actually you. You're just using your freedom of speech and your freedom of association to say whatever you want. And there you go. Does that make sense? Okay, this is just one. Everything has a data leak, just a matter of time. I agree, and that's why when they do leak this thing, you won't need it. It won't have anything important to you. How do you think Trump will start going after Democratic Socialists of America? No, why would he? He needs them. He needs a foil to seem like he knows what the fuck he's doing. This is Proton mail, just so you know. This is the proton.me is the site. There are other ways of doing it, but that's just one. Okay? So, and if you're doing that, and if he wants to go after people, the only way he can do it is by cracking open Proton mail, and that will annoy all the maggots. So we'll go, hey, government overreach, right? Because if they can crack it, like, none of them will feel safe if they can go after you, right? I would recommend using Proton for, I guess any of your social media backups or any of those things anyways, just to have it, I suppose. But this is a great way to do it, right? Pretty soon normal stuff is going to happen in Congress. Exactly, human being. There's a lot of that stuff. We'll get to that, and we'll watch as we go along. Point is that's mockery. The other thing is that you should post the record of the Biden administration. Every time Trump tries to claim something, like the VA Choice Act of 2014, just pop up a screenshot of the VA Choice Act of 2014 signed into law by Barack Obama, right? And then that just counters the fact. And then walk away. Right? Don't engage. Unless you want to set up a bot to do it. But seriously, just lay the stuff there. It has a lot more impact if you don't go, see, and or go, but, you know, and also, you know, cut and dry. Thump. Everything's a mic drop from this point on. They haven't earned the right to discourse. Most of the time, they're fake bot accounts anyways. So why would you waste your time arguing with a bot that Elon Musk created? So just setting up this email to post shit on Truth Social? Not just, but that's one of the reasons. That's the primary one. If you're going to do that, use Proton. And you should. Do I do that? Yes. But I do it as myself, so I'm out in the open. You guys don't have to be. I'm complete. You know, I have an account on Truth Social where I can just do this, and I was waiting for them to allow a streaming thing on there where you could live stream to it. So far, no. Gee, it's weird. Wonder why. Maybe it's because they can't afford the cloud structure to do it, but whatever. But you're damn straight I will stream my show on that channel, because fuck them. I took it off Twitter because I'm not making any money for Elon Musk, but fucking Trump's not making any money on that thing. And if they scroll by and watch me go, that's hilarious. The worst thing for them is if they stumble upon my show, right? So it's good. Also, if you're going to do that, if you're going to do this plan, please post videos of my show on their timeline, on your timeline in their stuff. That would also annoy the fuck out of them. You know, if we're gonna go trolling for real. And then the other thing you're going to do is you're going to get involved in, if you either your local Democratic Party or your local politics around something. Each of us, each quarter, as best you can, under the limitations you might have or something, whether it's a city hall meeting or even joining one of those online calls a governor will have or those kind of things, we're all going to do that once a quarter. We're going to, because the people that are going to be hurt the most are going to be on a local level, and it's governors and state legislators that, whether they like it or not, are going to have to pick up the slack. And so, on the one hand, states will protect people who are the most vulnerable, and in red states, they will squeal the loudest that, hey, this wasn't supposed to fuck with us. Right? Once a quarter. That's all you got to do. That's all. Maybe you'll do it more. Shit. Maybe you'll end up going, oh, fuck, I could run for office. I could probably take that person's seat. Maybe so. I don't know. But at first, that's all I'm asking. Once a quarter. Yeah, get in, loser. We're going trolling. Right? Maybe I do have a reason to have a Substack. You know, the leader of the Dem trolls. Come on under the bridge, kids. We're having a meeting. But the nice thing is that we're not trolling per se. We are trolling means you don't believe. Trolling, for the record, and there are trolls in here that are different from maggots, which is why I make the distinction. Yes, you do understand that? Yes. I do make a distinction between trolls and maggots, because maggots believe the bullshit that they're saying, and then are deluded fuckwads who are, I don't know, somehow believe that God sent Jeffrey Epstein's best friend to grope his oldest daughter in the fucking White House, whatever. That's a specific group of people. Then there are trolls. Trolls actually online are like human bots. They don't actually care. They just want the response. They want you to freak out. And if they get that from you, they win. So I'd like to remind you of that every time somebody's online trolling and obviously being like donkey and saying libtard and stuff like that. That their goal is not to be right in this situation. Their goal is not to have, they're rage baiting you. Yes, they want your outrage. That's how they get a point. 1 point for outrage, 5 points for rage, 10 points for a meltdown, and then I guess 50 points if you call him a Nazi and tell him to get offline, something like that. All right? Nice, Karine. Way to act on it, man. Karine is that is a person of action right there. That is no slacktivist there. So No engagement with those folks. Just mic drops. If you see something that they say that you want a mic drop on, don't do it in a way. Do it in a write your tweets or your messages or whatever, your Truth Social posts in a generic way. Don't address them specifically. Act like they don't exist. That's the other thing you could do when you're writing one of these things. Is don't go, you said this, so therefore blah, blah, blah. Leave them out of it. They're not important to this entire. The only targets are Trump and Musk and any people who are in power. The average person doesn't really have that much value even in this circumstance because they can blather, but they're not actually going to do anything. And the bots themselves, again, might be fake. But if you feel like writing something or you feel like, responding to something, respond as generically as possible in a way that you could like repost your own post and it sounds like a pure thought by itself. Does that make sense? Make it portable and less specific. That will also help. And it will also free you from this like engagement with these useless accounts, which is really where people's anxiety lies. I want you to jettison as much of that anxiety and that commitment to the other person's conversion entirely. And spend all your time directing your ideological and mocking fire in one direction, on people in power. Arguably in power, real power. The average tweeter, even if they're a high level one like Cat Turd or some of these other people that they seem to follow or, libtards of TikTok or whatever that account is, like they don't matter. They really don't. They're driving forces, they're influencers, but they're only influencers because people cater to their influence. You should bypass their influence whenever you're talking to them. On the other hand, you should absolutely, name drop and stuff all the time to help the show because no one Hal Sparks is like Hal Sparks can Hal Sparks. And if you don't believe me, come back this afternoon. So much. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Thanks to everybody who's resubbed on Twitch, too. Thank God. Yeah, if you're on Twitch, don't forget to subscribe. And, YouTube is free. It's easy. Just go ahead and do it. But, the only way you help in that regard is bits and subscriptions on Twitch. So thank you guys so much.